Hey everyone, pink hair Jen here, and I'm going to add this to my Punches of Pink interviews, okay? I had so many, probably over 70 interviews on my Punches of Pink series, and I think I want to add this into that as well and kind of like do a small reboot. Every once in a while, I'll throw in a video or an audio for y'all to listen to. So today I want to bring you a wonderful person who I've briefly met recently. And there is just so much we have to talk about that I want to introduce you all to Jocelyn. But please, Jocelyn, introduce yourself real quick and let's get to talking about your little punch of pink that you've got out here in the world.
All right. Yeah, I'm Jocelyn Hastie. I'm creator of the Cowgirls Code, which is my own code of conduct
Yes.
based on my core values of integrity, courage, compassion, and community. And I really love to help women create their own version of the Cowgirls Code based on their core values, not on mine. So I had someone create the Golfers Code, for example, another create the Writers Code. So it's a little fun thing that we do because I think once we can figure out what our core values are and how does that look in the real world, which is what the Cowgirls Code is for me. I think that it makes our life feel much more congruent and aligned with who we are and what we believe in. So our actions and values get together and are marching to the same drummer. I work as an empowerment coach with women who are looking to step into their own personal power
Hmm.
and power redefined from the traditional structures of dominance, power based on safety, first for self and then for others. And I work with horses to help women find their power. I think that dogs put us in touch with unconditional love and loyalty,
Yeah.
but horses put us in touch with power.
Yeah,
And power is not a dirty word.
and if anybody has even stood near a horse, they are very intimidating, at least to me. They're very intimidating, especially at the first introduction, I'm sure.
They can
So
be.
I want to kind of like let's take us into what you're doing right now with the ranch. Is it a specific, do you have like what am I trying to say? Do you have like a whole setup for this, like with where you can book a retreat and you have
Absolutely.
different lengths of retreats? And what do you find is the most common things that happen at these retreats? I mean, obviously there's probably a program put together, right? You've put
Right.
together a
Yep.
program.
Well, I build custom retreats, so you can
That
put
too?
together your own program. Talk to
Uh-huh.
me about what issues you'd really want to work on.
Uh-huh.
For example, one of the ones that comes up, one of the things I talk about is becoming cowgirl confident. And I define that as a balance of tenderness and toughness, rooted in truth and delivered with tact. Because when all those things are in place, I think that you do become someone who walks in her own power. And I think we can all get there. You don't have to touch a horse or buy the boots to be cowgirl confident.
No, I think that's what I loved about what you were talking about and how you're sharing what you're doing right now. Because not all of us can relate to the farm life. We've maybe
No.
driven past a farm. Maybe we rode a horse at summer camp one year. That was me, by the way. I'm raising my hand. I was that person that rode the horse one time, and it was an overwhelming experience for me because it was just such a big and powerful animal,
Mhm.
but knowing that I had to be on top of him and tell him what to do and where to go, it was kind of like that. That's kind of a different kind of empowerment too. Like you're like
Absolutely. And that is
steering something that's bigger that, or maybe it's the vice versa. Something bigger is steering you versus you steering the big thing. And there's so many different ways that I experienced horses in general, but also like when you set up these retreats in the how long have you been doing this particular setup right now? Like how it is right now at the ranch?
probably about 3 years, although I did run some retreats like 12 years ago.
Yeah, so
and
it's fairly recent. You've gotten some things going and you're kind of like walking in the empowerment of your own identity doing this, right? You
that's
feel
right.
like you're definitely in your zone. Well, everybody says zone of genius, right? Like you're doing what you feel like you know you're supposed to do right now. And so what have you found I know you said you do customization, but
Right.
what have you
Well,
found?
here's what I find
Yeah.
really makes a difference for women.
Yeah.
One of the first things I usually do is a program that I call um, mindful grooming. So we're going to spend about 45 minutes with the horse, making friends with them, touching them, grooming them, creating a connection with them. Because I find generally that when we first line up with our horse to start to groom them, we are in our heads. We're, oh, is this horse going to step on me? And we're worried about this, that, and the
Don't
other.
stand behind them, you know?
Don't stand behind them. That's right. It's, by the way, it's fine to stand behind a horse that knows you're there. Not a problem. I walk behind horses every day. And I can't say I've never been kicked, but the only time I was kicked at, well, I can say I've never been kicked. I was kicked at once, but it was because a friend of mine's dog who harassed the horses all the time
Yeah.
went behind the horse at the same moment I did, and the
Ooh.
horse was not aiming for me. He was aiming for the dog, and I actually felt his hoof graze my jeans. So it was like, ooh, that could have been bad, but it wasn't. But that's the only time in 35 years I've been kicked at, and it wasn't me the horse was aiming for, it was the dog. Anyways, I digress. Once you can stand beside the horse and really focus first on the horse and then on yourself, then on your horse, then on yourself, and create that connection with them, the horse will almost immediately start to really calm down and relax around you when you get out of your head and into your body. And in particular, I love to have people stand kind of right behind the horse's shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
Horses have chakras the same as we do. And when you stand with your heart chakra aligned directly with the horse's heart chakra, and your feet are flat on the ground and
Yeah.
you're centered and grounded,
Yeah.
almost always the horse will immediately relax and you will feel a deep, deep connection with that horse. And I think the idea of creating a connection with something that is intimidating to you can give you so much courage the next time you're with someone who feels intimidating. And I take that further in another exercise we do, which is basically a led obstacle course. So the horse has a halter and lead on it, and you take the horse through a simple
So
obstacle
you're
course.
walking with the horse.
You're walking with the horse. You're leading the horse. The horse is walking beside you.
Gotcha.
Because what happens for many women, pardon me, it's the very first time they have ever led something so much bigger and stronger than they are. And when they have that experience of leading that horse, the next time they're in a meeting and they need to find some courage to be a leader and to speak up, it's much easier because they have the body memory of how it felt to be leading something that much bigger and stronger than they are. So it truly is experiences that integrate the things we talk about in circle. That
I was gonna say like, and what I've been learning is we can talk all day long,
right.
right? We can talk all day long, but when you are experiencing something but the byproduct is quite transformational, that lasts with us. We're not just exchanging the information anymore. We are talking
Right.
about the synergy of all of it, the actions with the words, and then well, like we were talking about previously, being in tune and aware
Mhm.
of what's going on. I just find that super fascinating because I understand how experiential that is. It's got to
Right.
be very transformational for everybody who steps on site there.
Well, and what I have found is that I too have paid a lot of money and attended a lot of women's empowerment programs.
Yeah.
There are not an awful lot of them that move me out of the brain and
Mm-hmm.
understanding the theory and the concepts and
Mm.
into experiencing it in my body.
Yeah.
And my feeling is that when they have these experiences with the horses, it truly is giving them a somatic that is a body experience that they can draw on later on. So it can be truly transformational. And that is really what I want to do is create that transformation for women so that they learn to be better leaders for themselves first, that they become a leader that they choose to follow far before they try to lead anybody else. And I think that when we step into our authenticity and we are truly honest with ourselves, that we give permission for other women to do the same. And to me, the ripple is everything.
It is
If I can help
100%.
someone so that she can help others, my life has had meaning.
Yeah.
We're getting deep here.
Oh,
I'm
this is
like,
what I'm here for. This is what I'm here for. This is the things I don't want to just sit around and talk about stuff. I want to talk about the transformational things, the things that are happening in this world that we don't get to see on the news, the things that are our everyday life. We're infecting other people with love and joy and peace and passion and all these other things that not a lot of people have learned to experience that because they don't stop on the treadmills or they don't stop in the rat race of life and they don't realize there's a problem until there's a problem. Or
that's right.
like in
And
your
that's what happened to me with
and
my
your experience,
cancer
right?
diagnosis. Yeah,
It completely like you're going and you're going and you're going and then all of a sudden cancer. And
yeah.
then you're going and then you like completely go into a different direction that is much more in
Mhm.
tune with a life that is it's just we're so it's reachable. Any of us can find this in our life. Even if you're still in
Mhm.
a corporate job and you're happy doing that.
Absolutely.
You can go into making your own having your own business and you can find your happiness in that. There's so many different ways that we can all go, but the point was like slowing down long enough to see that there might be something you need to address in your life and especially for for women that may take on way too many hats, specifically like, people that have a lot of things they're interested in, they're raising a family maybe, they're caretaking for elderly parents. There's so many ways that we lose ourselves in the day-to-day busyness. And by busyness, I mean busy, not business. Two totally different things. Business and busyness. But I
And
love this because I don't know, and I'm sure you have this experience too. When you set apart the block of time, no matter what it is, for a retreat, you are there. You're completely immersed into it. So you have no choice but to face yourself, face
right.
what's in front of you, and then you as the guide, right? Like guiding them through the things. Have
Mhm.
you have you found that here recently even some things that we can learn from the experiences you've had so far at the ranch and how things have been transformed?
Well,
Not just
I
for the
think
people that come, but for you too, like as the as the person who's putting these on and how have you also been transformed?
I've been transformed because I do know that I survived cancer for a reason. I have a reason for being on this earth. And my
Hmm.
reason is not financial statements with 30 pages of notes.
Hmm.
My purpose is to live my life as an example for other women so those ripples can be created. And one of the first things I do when I do public speaking workshops is I will tell women, if you need someone to grant you permission to show up brilliantly and imperfectly, I'm here for you until you can do that for yourself. If you need an external person to give you that permission today, I'm your gal. I am here for you all day long to give you permission to be imperfect and brilliant. But my real hope is that you come to a place where you can do that for yourself, because I've completely given myself permission
Yeah.
to show up brilliantly and imperfectly and not to have any guilt or bad feelings that I don't deliver a perfect speech. This won't be a perfect interview, and I'm okay with that. But it will have moments of brilliance, and I'm even more okay with that.
Yeah,
And I'm not
that's
going
the
to,
good
I'm
stuff.
not going to judge myself on the mistakes. I'm just going to show up with the moments of brilliance. And if not every moment is brilliant, that's okay too.
And I want to speak on permission too, because that was something that was powerful and impactful for me, just in general. I had just made a shift into another piece of my career, and somebody on an audio app said in a room full of little tiny pictures with nothing but voices, just little tiny pictures. And she said, "You have a safe space here, and your voice matters," in so many different words.
Mhm.
And that even just that little permission of using your voice opens so many people up for possibility.
Mhm.
And so I love that you shared that as well, because sometimes people do need to hear that. And I know I've said it a couple of times too, where some people are just waiting. They're waiting and waiting and waiting to be
Waiting
unlocked,
to be asked.
but they
Yeah,
haven't unlearned how to unlock who they are. They just, that external permission
they
of
need it. Yeah,
it's okay to be here and it's okay to use your voice. It's okay to step out of your shell. All the other things that I didn't know I needed. Because that's what the beautiful thing is like sometimes you don't know you need it until somebody says it.
that's right. Somebody gives it to you. And I find as a facilitator, Jen, that's one of the biggest challenges is there's almost always someone in the group that is so uncomfortable with silence that they want to fill every moment with talk.
Yeah.
And to very gently but firmly ask them to be quiet, for other people to be able to speak up, and for all of us to be able to have moments of quiet. That it's okay in circle if we're thinking.
Yeah.
So
That's so,
that's one of the biggest skills as a facilitator I've had to gain, is to make it safe to ask someone not to speak so much and safe to call on those that haven't spoken at all.
yeah.
And to find that balance so that everybody does have an opportunity to know their voice is worthy of being heard.
Yeah. When this is like a logistical question, when these retreats are being put together, do you have a cap on how many people can be at each one? Like,
Yeah, I do.
you
I,
would almost have to, because I know you're one person, and
yeah.
what's kind of the cap on these groups that you bring into the ranch?
Anywhere from 6 to 12. So
Oh,
I
that's a
charge
good
a
number.
minimum amount for the first 6 people,
Yeah.
and then I charge per person additional at a lower rate because, of course, the place is already paid for. But
Yeah.
when we are working with the horses, I only allow 6 people at a time to be working with the horses. So if it is a group of 12, I split it into 2 groups. So
That makes total sense.
it's a maximum of 6 people that are with the horses. So I can float from person to person and make sure everybody is safe. And I always have a helper there too. So but 6 I find is the maximum where I am capable of giving you an experience that's really a good one. I just, and it's important to me that everybody have a really good experience. So I find 6 is the maximum where I don't feel super stretched, that
Yeah.
I feel like I
You can give
spend
the
enough time
attention.
with, yeah, I really want everyone to have personal attention. And if it is a larger group, I always co-facilitate the circle with a licensed counselor. So
Yeah.
we make sure that if stuff does, it's surprising how often the horses can dig up some pretty deep stuff that people didn't even know was there. So
Yeah.
I always have a counselor there as well so that we can make sure people are well taken care of and that they're not leaving with bigger trauma than they arrived with.
Right. It's like, well, now I've dug up this thing. What am I going to do with it now? Like, where do I give it away? Do I throw it away? Like, and I'm
Yeah,
talking about internal work, people, internal work. It's hard work to realize, and we were talking about this on our other conversation about how stuff will just come up and we're like, I thought I dealt with that, but it's coming up again, but it's a different layer of it.
it's a
Or, and
different.
I can only imagine again, in being in the presence of not only other people, but very large animals like six horses,
That
right?
are hyper aware. Like the thing about horses is that they are absolute masters of herd dynamics.
Yeah,
The difference between them and us is they're obvious about it. They don't hide it. I mean, when a plastic bag is blowing across the field,
everybody's
there are
attention.
horses in the herd, the less experienced horses, the younger horses, or the more nervous ones,
Yeah.
that honestly believe that that plastic bag is going to kill them. They are going to die. But what's really fascinating about horses is once they understand that that plastic bag is not going to kill them, they really quickly look to get back to grazing, which is where they're much smarter than we are. We hold on to that fear, right? Where
Yes.
they can't wait to and they don't pretend they weren't scared. Like after the bag is gone, the horse says, "Phew, was that ever scary? I'm glad it's over. Now let's eat." Where we do the, is there another plastic bag? But they're just looking to, phew, am I ever glad that's over? That was really scary.
Isn't that interest? That's so interesting. It makes me laugh because I'm imagining this as you're talking about it. And I'm
Yeah.
also imagining, I told y'all on the last conversation that I have three cats. So I watch how instinctively they react to little noises in the house versus big noises in the house. So if it's a little noise, they both literally, the brothers, the two brothers, the youngest, they both move at the exact same way. Their head turns the same way, their ears turn the same way, their faces look exactly the same. Hans, he's like 17 years old. He's a little slower and he's bumping into the walls. But if that doesn't tell you the range of ways that we react to things, right? So we have a horse reaction and we have a cat reaction and we have the human reaction. And I'm just laughing because every time my husband sneezes, the boys like bolt out of that room.
Yeah, they're not convinced that that sneeze isn't going to kill
They're
them.
like, it's coming to get us.
Yeah. Yeah, but that I really think that that is a big lesson I learned from the horses is just to live in the moment and acknowledge the feelings. Don't pretend like we're walking down the street and we trip on a crack and we look around to see if anybody saw us trip. They're walking across the field and they trip in a hole. They don't care if anybody saw it. They don't pretend. And they never, here's the other thing is they never ever worry about whether this saddle makes their butt look big.
Oh my God, that is so fun. I love this because all I
Never.
can think about is all the times I've ever tripped on myself. I don't know why I raised my hand here. I've tripped on myself and then I have. I'm like, did I just see that? Did they just see that? But I don't stop walking. I just kind of like laugh for a second and
Yeah.
keep going.
Yeah. So I think that that true honesty and ability just to get over it is something that's pretty miraculous. And it's not just horses that do it, obviously. Your cats
Yeah.
do it, dogs do it too. So I think that is one of the gifts of that animals give us. The thing about horses though is they're so big that it's so obvious.
Yeah, it's so wonderful that we're digging deeper into to the horse. I'll call it this is flat out therapy, retreats and therapy and healing and um I was also telling you that the reason why I also resonated with this particular experience thing that y'all have put together and that you've put together on the farm is I'm a movie watcher, so I always love watching movies. And in one of the movies with Sandra Bullock, it was called 28 Days. They had sent her to rehab after a big accident happened, and she was, dealing with alcoholism. But what they did in the rehab facility was this kind of therapy.
Yeah,
They sat them up with horses and they had to learn how to trust themselves and trust the horse. And
right.
that vice versa kind of relationship, right? And it was
Mhm.
so funny to see the journey. I don't know how long these retreats are, but the journey in this particular movie was weeks or 28 days. And you see how they approach the horse differently over time and how they interact over time. But this is a matter of weeks in the movie. So when you
Yeah.
have your retreats, like, are they like days,
Yeah,
weeks,
most of them are weekend retreats. So you arrive
weekends?
on
Okay.
Friday and you leave on Sunday. So it's just the like like one full day, two part days, two nights. But I do see if people are ready to dig deep right away, it can be pretty transformational,
Yeah.
like right away. And the other thing I find, Jen, is that women may not trust the leader until the leader has done something to prove that they're worthy. But what I do find is the horses show the women that they trust me. So I get some street cred by the way the horses respond to me. So it right away gives me some credibility that I wouldn't have
So
otherwise.
we're putting that on our resume today.
Yeah, the horses vouch for me, but they
All the
really
horses
do.
vouch for you.
Not all of them, but most of them do. There are some that don't like me, and that's the other thing is I don't take it personally if one particular horse doesn't vibe with my energy.
Yeah.
Most do. Occasionally there'll be horses that don't. And it seems to often be horses that are used to having their own way and they don't get it with me, so they don't like me very much. But for the
Yes.
most part, horses are really looking for a place of safety and for someone that will keep them safe. And there are many horses that are constantly checking, you were safe yesterday, but are you still safe today?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's interesting. I went through that with dealing with people where with people I had this thing, well, I already proved to you I'm safe, so why should I have to do it again? But I didn't mind proving my safety more than once to horses. So I had to do a self-examination on that. Why do I feel so offended when a person checks me out again, when it doesn't bother me at all when a horse does? So I had to check myself in maybe you better do some work around that.
Yes, that's awesome. That is so cool. And so, and I know where you are. You're in Canada,
I'm in
right?
Canada. Yeah. Yeah.
So, and
Just
I know,
south of Calgary.
yeah, and I was like, I didn't introduce you as to where you were, but we can all catch it in a couple of your words for all my people listening. And so, and I'm sure your weather patterns are starting to improve. Do you end up doing this kind of stuff all year long, even like in the
No,
snowy times, or you
no, I
just
don't. No, we
have
only do it
spring
in
and
the
summer?
summertime. And I will, I've been to 40 countries. There is no more beautiful place on earth than Southern Alberta in the summertime. We have daylight until 10:30 at night,
Oh, yeah.
long, long days. And it really is the area that we're in is the area where Legends of the Fall and Unforgiven were
All
filmed
those beautiful landscapes, y'all.
and where the G7 summit is meeting in June this year. So same basic area. So it is truly one of the most beautiful places on earth.
That's amazing. Yeah, so
Mhm.
if anybody is interested in booking a retreat or
Yeah.
setting up their own custom retreat, how do they get a hold of you to do that?
Probably the easiest thing is through my website, which is thecowgirlscode.com, S on cowgirls and thecowgirlscode.com.
Yeah.
There's lots of information on the website, and there also is a workbook there for any of your people
Ooh.
that do want to walk through the process of designing their own version of the Cowgirls Code. And a couple of times a month, I do free webinars that walks them through the process as well.
And remember, you don't have to go out and buy a cowboy hat or anything, or a
You
cowgirl
don't.
hat, or
If you
boots.
want to, though, I've
If
got
you
a
want
network and I can
to,
say,
yeah,
yeah.
like if you want to, just get all up in that. I grew up in part of Oklahoma, so that was the thing in our little high school is that we were wearing cowboy boots and jeans and all these boot cuts of everything. That's not my style, but the heart of this project and the heart of what you're doing is so wonderful and transformational. And so it makes me excited to sit with you today and just make sure that people know that you're there, that you have these
Mhm.
amazing retreats that you can just easily book her with something. See if you want to take your team out there, if there's a team of people from your business, or make it kind of like a very intimate work retreat even.
Yeah.
It sounds like it could be used a variety of different ways.
Absolutely, Jen. Thank you for that. That is true. And my background is 35 years in the energy industry as a finance
Yeah.
manager. So I've got lots of corporate background in addition to the work with the horses, which is also 35 years of horses. So
Yeah. And
they're
we
both
all
there.
have, I was gonna say, we all have stress in common. So, and stress from the inside and stress on the outside. So when you immerse yourself into any kind of retreat, I'm always gonna say, if you're gonna go, you might as well immerse your whole self into it and just be ready for the
Mhm.
process.
Yeah,
So,
and I certainly can add days if someone was traveling from your area, Jen. I
yeah.
certainly can easily add extra days and extra activities. That's really very easy to do.
Well, it's just
So,
beautiful, and I'm so glad I could have you on to talk about it today. On my, we'll call it my little Punches of Pink series, reviving kind of a thing. But I think it's also important, y'all. Let's just get out here and talk to people. There's people out here hurting. There's people out here that need some help, and they don't know how to ask for it. And there's varieties of different ways that we can find healing and strength and empowerment, and also learn how to be leaders. And I love that yours is so much about teaching people how to lead as well. And I think that's such a cool thing.
yeah,
And
and that
so,
leadership is not about dominance. It
yeah,
really truly isn't, not true leadership.
yeah. And thank you so much, Jocelyn, for coming on today. And I look forward to speaking with you more as time goes on. And who knows, maybe I may get to make a trip up there sometime and really
Maybe
like
you will.
dig deep into
Bring
my
your
horse
friends.
therapy. Well, thank you so much. And I'll be sure to let everybody know how you can find Jocelyn and book your own retreat. It's going to be a lot of fun. And thank you again for coming on. And I will see y'all again soon.
Thanks,
Bye.
Jen.
You're
Bye, everybody.
welcome.